everyone, and welcome to this discussion series. It's really an honor and privilege for me to welcome Mr. Ashwin Kak. He's a very special guest of ours. He's special because he's an alumnus of Goa Institute of Management, and he's from the batch 2008-2010. And Ashwin has always done things very differently. So he has always tried to bring about an impact through his work, through the work that he has done with his friends and the others. So welcome Ashwin, and on behalf of GIM, I extend a very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for accepting this invitation to be part of the interaction. And he's been doing amazing work, both pre-COVID-19 and of course the journey continues. So my first question to you, Ashwin, since 2017, you've really began it early, that you've been working on with the principles of sustainability, principles helping companies to integrate sustainability into the business practice. So how did you get into this whole domain of working on sustainability?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that introduction. I'm on cloud nine already. So if I look back at my career, I would say in 2010, when I started off in sales, I think I enjoyed sales a lot over the first 5 years completely till the last day. And I think it was in 2015 itself where I was sort of introspecting, and I was wondering one fine evening in the Pidilite canteen, like, what is it that I want to do 10 years, 20 years down the line? Because I was also having a good career trajectory that I could see in the commercial functions. And I was like, yes, I do enjoy this, but is this what the world really needs right now? Then I started reaching out to the external world. And I think 2015 was the exact time when the Sustainable Development Goals were also launched. So it was, I would say, at the right transition and at the right flux, where I also realized that, yes, maybe I want to do more in the social and environmental impacts here. And that's where I was fortunate that in Pidilite itself, we were setting up our foundation team at that time. So actually shifted into the CSR wing of Pidilite, which was being led by the special projects team. And I started learning more and more while on the job, working on the field, interacting with the farmers, looking at how cotton or groundnut works, which was completely alien to me. So I think that's where the first 2 formative years in Pidilite, which I'm tremendously thankful for, I sort of transitioned into further corporate affairs role in AB InBev in 2017, and then the sustainability and agro role here. But I think one thing which has stayed till now is that in sustainability, it's a daily learning. So yeah, probably that's how it's developed.
How easy or how difficult has it been to integrate sustainability into the business practices, especially when you joined the entire work? Was it already being done? Did the companies have kind of an orientation, or you yourself brought the companies into the whole fold of it?
I would say sustainability cannot be done by one person or one function. So no matter how passionate I am or someone else is who wants to bring about an impact, you need like-minded people around you. It's the team which sort of makes it happen. And the number one principle for sustainability itself is that you cannot work in silos. So there can be a sustainability team, but you have to embed sustainability in each and every function. So the commercial team has to have sustainability as a part of their routine, as a part of their review, probably even a part of their targets. Same with the supply or the plant team, very similar to how the packaging, similar to how the energy or fluids team work. So I guess it's a two-way street. With some functions or with some categories, it makes direct sense for them. Like for example, in packaging, and where we talk about circular packaging, it makes direct sense for the commercial team also to have more material, more products which is recyclable or returnable. But with some other functions, you need to have that selling point. And I say this to everyone who gets into the domain, that you cannot just go into a meeting room every time and say, this is the right thing to do, so we need to do it. Sometimes you need to think beyond it. And why I say that, the best example for this is renewable electricity in India. So when we look at RE, it's not just the right thing to do. In many states, it's also leading to savings for the companies on their electricity bill. If you just go with the horse's vision and say, no, this is the only way, then you'll probably face a lot more roadblocks. And you might just end up being a roadblock yourself to the larger business growth itself. And that's where something happen quick, some things will take some time, but you need to have the right approach, I would say.
Okay, so COVID-19 has really set back a lot of things. And suddenly,
Yes.
as we see, the world just came to a halt. There was chaos, distrust, there was a lot of anxiety,
Yes.
fear. Not only individuals, companies, governments, they were literally struggling for a direction. And in the
Yes.
midst of this, there were people who said that probably SDG, the whole work on SDG, will now come to a halt. Did it happen in Abby and Bev, or you still continued with the kind of drive that you were going forward in the sustainability initiatives that you were doing? So did COVID-19 actually make a difference? Did it roll back the hard work, or did it actually motivate you to come up with newer strategies?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. There are different ways to look at this. But if we sort of take a step back and look at why COVID has sort of struck us in the way it has, and if you look at the root cause, what is it? It's essentially deforestation. It's essentially humans encroaching on where the wildlife originally existed, or bringing wildlife into spaces in which humans are supposed to exist. Its own nature, it calls for more sustainability. And if you sort of move one step ahead, and if you look at what the lockdown has shown us, we are very clearly seeing the AQI falling down. Like, we can see the star in the sky in Delhi, which was it was impossible to imagine. There are people joking around that you can see Canada from Punjab. And you can actually see Himalayas from the Saharanpur region. So there is very clear evidence which is coming out of changes which can happen if we sort of take a step back and understand that sustainability is important. There is a recent report which also says that 2020 will actually see like CO2 emissions reduction by at least 8 to 10%. I would say it has been positive in a way. Initially, when COVID struck and there was the lockdown and everyone was like, oh, we are going to focus just on this, but it's actually helped in the other way. If we sort of extend it now to understand what sustainability challenges COVID and lockdown will leave for us, so there is the menace of plastic which will come out of it. There is the menace of biomedical waste which will come out of it. And we need to sort of start creating those different strategies to start addressing the outcomes of COVID and lockdown. But other than that, I don't see anything reducing, honestly.
Okay, so one story that Ashwin would want to share with us to also, motivate the future leaders who would soon pass out from GIM. One story of sustainable initiative that you had led after you joined ABM Bev, and despite this pandemic.
Just to give you an example, our harvesting of barley happens towards the end of March. And that's when we start our procurement process with the 1,200 farmers who we have worked with through the entire season right now, and sort of upskilling them and telling them what's the right way to grow this crop, get the best quality. And exactly on 23rd March, if I remember it right, the lockdown was sort of clamped on the entire country. There was pin drop silence. Everyone was wondering, okay, now what? And there are a lot of challenges which started coming up in terms of machines not being available for the farmers to harvest and thresh their crop, because usually they had to travel with the machines inter-district. Again, the first 10 days was totally chaotic, but it's brilliant to see how the entire team on the ground sort of recovered within a week or 10 days at max, and they're like, okay, we'll find solutions to this. There are certain areas in which the government had opened up the market yards, or the mandis as we call them, for the crops like wheat and mustard, on which the government has an assured buyback. So barley was sort of went into the third in the priority list over there. So what the team said, okay, we'll take our cleaning equipments, we'll take our quality equipments to the farmer land. We will ensure that the farmer gets that assurance and commitment from us that his crop has been tested, and it doesn't matter if he's not able to sell it to us today, we will buy it from him or her a few months or a few weeks down the line when the situation gets better. So I think that was one brilliant example. The other was where we all got together and we were like, okay, now the farmer is facing storage issues. So what should we do? we started creating those PDFs and videos, one-pager PDFs, small video snippets, the team giving video calls to certain farmers and telling them, okay, this is what you need to do. I think the entire process, I think it has been a learning for all of us. The result has been there for us to see. We bought back 100% of what we had targeted originally. And I'm hopeful that there hasn't been a single farmer who's returned wondering that what do I do with this crop.
That's really a brilliant story, and it's so inspiring. So now taking you back to from where you started as an alumnus of GIM. I know you come to GIM quite often, and you do share your experiences with the students. What would be the message to all the future leaders who would be joining the industry post-COVID? How can they contribute to actually make this world a better world? Do you need a different strategy? Do you need different values? What is it that you need?
Number one, I see a lot of reluctance and hesitance in terms of, okay, am I in the right space? Do I know the right things? Can I suddenly get into sustainability and start creating impact? Let me tell you, no, that's not a problem at all. So we have specialists within sustainability, but we also have generalists. We need that really nice mix of people who know the technical aspects and people who can drive the project forward. So there are different roles also available within this domain. And as I said, my own experience, I sort of jumped into education, health initiatives, and agriculture and women empowerment initiatives despite not having done any of it. So I started learning while I was in it. So I think just be open to it. It's not like to start doing it, you need to have certain degrees or certain experience behind you. You need to find the right space. And I also see this a lot with people who are already in an organization and who are wondering, should I just leave everything and go and join an NGO? That could be one solution, but that's not the only solution. So I think you also need to look within your organization where you are. If there is a CSR wing, if there is an employee engagement wing, if there is something which in the HR team even, which calls back for giving back to the society, if they are running special projects, start taking those special projects up. We're sort of starting off, it's like an open book for them. That's like the best place, I would say. So you have corporates now who are setting up CSR teams, who are setting up sustainability teams, and you have the government having different departments and special projects team which is working on it, which is taking applications from people from outside the usual government domain also. Then you have international NGOs, you have local and domestic NGOs. So the opportunities frankly abound. Then it depends on the person, what is the path that that person wants to take. So I think while doing all of this, just keep an open mind, keep on learning every day. I think that's the most important thing. The moment in sustainability or CSR you start feeling that, boss, I know everything today and I am perfect at this, that is the time your learning stops and you will stop creating impact beyond that point of time.
3 values that a leader should have in the post-COVID-19 world to build a better world.
So the top one which comes to my mind is probably just ethical leadership. Finally, when you look at sustainability, what is it? It is about that fine balance between your business growth and protecting and nourishing and nurturing the environment and ensuring that the society and the people who are directly or indirectly impacted are positively impacted. The second value would be something which I always profess, is that we need to have visions which say that 5 years down the line, we don't need a sustainability team, because that's the point where I have been successful, honestly. And I think the third one and the most important one would be that recognize your gaps and ask for help. Actually, we just go out in some cases and say, we have this problem, we do not have the expertise to solve it. So we are sending out an open challenge to the external world saying, okay, NGO, startup, suppliers, whoever wants to help us solve this, come ahead, let's partner and let's solve this. So having that open mind, being humble, essentially being humble.
Wonderful words of ethical leadership, partnership, and of course being reflexive and having that inclination that learning is a continuous process. Can a B school play a role in actually creating this kind of a leader in the post-COVID-19 world? And also specifically, do they have a role in helping the future leaders embed sustainability principles in the business that they would be joining?
I think that's the best place to start off. That's honestly the best place to start off. And I'm seeing a lot of changes now happening over the past decade, where not just courses, not just subject courses coming up, which is focusing specifically on sustainability and social impact. The B School is exactly the point where you can have those debates, where you can share those conflicting views when it comes across all three pillars that I'm talking about, and then get to a final solution which is most conducive and balanced for everyone. And I think GIM is doing really well right now, and I've seen this change, like for the last 12 years, 2 years when I was in GIM, and 10 years after that. That change is very visible, like in terms of the Give Goa initiative, in terms of the courses on social impact which has come up, and also in terms of other subjects which are embedded, in terms of the conversations which are happening. So when I was there in GIM some time back, I was very happy to be having conversations on what is stakeholder and shareholder theory, and do they merge or are they different. I wouldn't have imagined these conversations happening in B schools like 10 or 15 years back, but it's happening now.
That's been fantastic. I think you really gave a very broad perspective. It's been a brilliant conversation. Thank you so much, Ashwin, for taking the time out, sharing all your knowledge and experiences. And we look forward to more success stories as you lead the sustainability division. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's been a privilege.
Thank you.